The billionaire's hand stopped halfway toward the mathematics paper when she saw the final equation. Her 14-year-old daughter had been failing algebra for almost a year, yet the page in front of her contained a solution so advanced that even the private tutor had struggled to explain it. The billionaire stared at the elegant sequence of calculations, then looked at her daughter in disbelief. When she finally asked who had taught her the formula, the girl slowly lifted one hand and pointed through the glass doors toward a quiet man pushing a janitor's cart across the courtyard. Her mother knew him only as the building's maintenance worker. She had no idea that the single father had once been a Navy SEAL whose military training had taught him to calculate distance, timing, angles, and probability under conditions where one wrong number could cost a life. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can transform a person's future, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so our family can continue sharing emotional stories about ordinary people who carry extraordinary stories. Beatrice Langford had spent most of her life believing that every problem had a solution if she worked hard enough. At 45, she controlled a global financial company worth billions, had built a reputation for making impossible deals succeed, and rarely allowed emotion to interfere with her decisions. Employees admired her intelligence but often feared her intensity. She could enter a boardroom filled with experienced executives and identify the weakness in a proposal within minutes. Numbers were her language. Numbers made sense. Numbers could be measured, compared, and controlled. Her daughter, Rosalie, was the one problem Beatrice could not solve. Rosalie was 14 and bright in almost every area except mathematics. She loved literature, history, painting, and music. She could remember entire passages from books after reading them once, but whenever numbers appeared on a page, her confidence disappeared. She would stare at equations until her eyes filled with tears. Her grades dropped steadily, and every failed test made the next one harder because she began expecting herself to fail. Beatrice reacted the way she reacted to every problem. She hired help. First came a private tutor from an elite university. Then another. Then an educational consultant. Then a specialist who promised to identify Rosalie's learning pattern. Each professional gave Beatrice reports, strategies, schedules, and recommendations. Yet none of them could reach the real problem. Rosalie did not hate mathematics. She hated the feeling of being wrong. Whenever she made a mistake, she imagined her mother's disappointment. Beatrice never intended to make her feel that way, but her high expectations had become a shadow Rosalie carried everywhere. Her mother wanted her to succeed because she loved her. Rosalie experienced that love as pressure because she believed she could never disappoint the woman who had given her everything. Then there was Marcus Hale. Marcus was 42, a single father, and one of the quietest employees in Beatrice's enormous corporate headquarters. His official position was facilities maintenance. He cleaned conference rooms, repaired equipment, checked electrical panels, moved supplies, and handled the countless small problems that kept the building running. Most executives barely noticed him. Marcus preferred it that way. Before civilian life, he had spent years as a Navy SEAL. His military career had taken him into situations where calm thinking was more important than physical strength. Navigation, ballistics, timing, geometry, fuel calculations, and probability were not academic subjects to him. They were tools used to bring people home alive. But Marcus rarely mentioned his service. After leaving the military, he had struggled with the memories of men he could not save. He had also become a single father to his 10-year-old son, Finn. Fatherhood gave him a reason to build a quieter life. He accepted the maintenance job because it offered stable hours and allowed him to be present for Finn. He did not care about titles anymore. He cared about being a good father. Marcus first noticed Rosalie one afternoon when she was sitting alone in a glass-walled meeting room with a mathematics workbook open in front of her. Her private tutor had left minutes earlier after another unsuccessful session. Rosalie was staring at one problem. She had been staring at it for almost 20 minutes. Marcus was replacing a damaged light fixture nearby. He noticed her frustration but did not interrupt. He finished his work and began packing his tools. Rosalie eventually looked up. Marcus noticed the equation. He recognized the mistake she was making. He did not give her the answer. Instead, he showed her how to think about the problem differently. He used an example involving the movement of two vehicles on a road, explaining how the same mathematical relationship could be understood through distance and time rather than symbols on a page. Rosalie looked surprised. The equation suddenly made sense. Marcus returned to his work. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The next afternoon, Rosalie found him again. She brought another problem. Marcus helped her break it into smaller pieces. The day after that, she brought 3. Soon, a quiet routine developed. Rosalie would occasionally sit in a conference room after school, and Marcus would help her understand concepts that had previously terrified her. He never completed the work for her. He never told her she was gifted. He simply reminded her that difficult did not mean impossible. Marcus also taught her something her expensive tutors had overlooked. He taught her how to make mistakes without being ashamed of them. When Rosalie got an answer wrong, Marcus treated the mistake like a clue. He encouraged her to find the exact point where her thinking changed direction. Slowly, mathematics became less frightening. Her grades improved. But more importantly, Rosalie stopped crying when she saw an equation. Beatrice noticed. She assumed the private tutor had finally succeeded. Then one afternoon, she found something unexpected on her daughter's desk. Rosalie had solved a complicated algebraic problem that was far beyond the material she had been assigned at school. The solution contained several steps and a clever substitution method. Beatrice recognized the elegance immediately. She was impressed. Then she became suspicious. She asked Rosalie who had taught her. Rosalie looked toward the glass doors. Outside, Marcus was pushing a maintenance cart across the courtyard. Rosalie pointed toward him. Beatrice froze. Her first reaction was disbelief. Her second was anger. She had spent a fortune on tutors, and her daughter was secretly being taught by a janitor. Beatrice confronted Marcus that afternoon. Marcus remained respectful. He explained that Rosalie had been struggling and that he had only helped her when she asked. He had never intended to interfere with her education or cross a boundary. Beatrice asked how he knew mathematics at that level. Marcus hesitated. He had avoided talking about his past for years. Eventually, he told her he had served as a Navy SEAL. Beatrice was stunned. She looked at the quiet maintenance worker in front of her and suddenly saw him differently. Marcus explained that his military work had required constant calculations. Distance, speed, angles, navigation, timing, fuel consumption, and probability had been part of his daily life. But he insisted that none of that made him a genius. His training had simply taught him how to remain calm when a problem looked impossible. That was exactly what Rosalie needed. Beatrice still did not trust the situation completely. She ordered a background investigation. The results were remarkable. Marcus had served honorably and received several commendations. His record included specialized training and assignments that were partially classified. He had left the military years earlier and deliberately chosen a modest civilian career. The report also revealed something that made Beatrice uncomfortable. Marcus's son, Finn, had a chronic medical condition requiring regular treatment. Marcus had declined several higher-paying jobs because they would have required extensive travel. He had chosen time with his son over money. Beatrice understood that decision more than she wanted to admit. She had accumulated billions while missing countless small moments with Rosalie. Marcus had very little money, but he knew the sound of his son's laugh, the name of his teacher, his favorite meal, and the exact expression Finn made when he was worried. Beatrice suddenly wondered which of them was actually richer. The turning point came when Rosalie entered a regional mathematics competition. Beatrice wanted her daughter to win. Marcus wanted her to finish. That difference mattered. Rosalie became nervous before the competition. She looked at the first page and immediately felt overwhelmed. Her old fear returned. Marcus did not tell her she had to succeed. He reminded her that the goal was not to prove she was intelligent. The goal was to solve one problem at a time. Rosalie began. She completed the first problem. Then the second. Then the third. She made a mistake on the fourth. For several seconds, she stared at the page. Then she smiled. She had learned how to find her own mistake. She corrected it. Rosalie did not win the competition. She finished second. When she returned home, she was not disappointed. She was proud. Beatrice cried when she saw her daughter holding the certificate. She realized that for years she had been measuring Rosalie by results. Marcus had taught her to measure her by courage. That evening was not the beginning of a perfect relationship between Beatrice and Marcus. There were still disagreements. Beatrice remained protective. Marcus remained cautious. Rosalie still struggled with mathematics sometimes. But something important had changed. Beatrice began listening. She stopped immediately hiring someone whenever Rosalie struggled. She started asking her daughter what kind of help she wanted. She learned to let silence exist. She learned that children do not always need their parents to fix things. Sometimes they need their parents to sit beside them while they fix things themselves. Marcus also changed. For years, he had hidden behind his work because he feared being defined by his military past. Beatrice eventually convinced him to help establish a foundation supporting veterans who wanted to transition into civilian careers. Marcus resisted at first. He did not want recognition. But Rosalie encouraged him. She told him that if his experience could help another veteran find a stable life, then perhaps hiding it was not the answer. Marcus agreed. The foundation became one of Beatrice's most meaningful projects. It helped former service members find employment, education, counseling, and opportunities to build lives outside the military. Marcus became a mentor. He taught practical skills. He taught discipline. But most importantly, he taught people that leaving the military did not mean losing their purpose. Rosalie remained involved too. She created educational programs for children who were afraid of mathematics. She used Marcus's method of turning complicated equations into real-world problems. Her favorite lesson was simple. A difficult problem is not the same thing as an impossible problem. One afternoon, years after the day Beatrice discovered the formula, she visited a classroom funded by the foundation. Rosalie was helping younger students solve mathematics problems while Marcus watched from the back of the room. Beatrice smiled. She remembered the first time she had seen that equation on her daughter's desk. She had thought she was discovering a secret. Instead, she had discovered a person. A man she had overlooked because of his job title. A father who had chosen presence over wealth. A former Navy SEAL who had survived experiences he rarely discussed. And a mentor who had given her daughter something no expensive tutor had been able to provide. Confidence. Marcus eventually became one of the most trusted people in Beatrice's life, but their relationship was never based on wealth or status. They respected one another because they had both learned something from the other. Beatrice learned humility. Marcus learned that accepting help did not make him weak. Rosalie learned that failure was not a verdict. Finn learned that his father's quiet strength was not something he needed to imitate, it was something he could admire while becoming his own person. Years later, Rosalie would become an engineer. She would still make mistakes. She would still face difficult equations. But she would never again believe that a wrong answer meant she was incapable. Whenever she encountered a problem that seemed impossible, she remembered the quiet maintenance worker who had once sat beside her and refused to give her the answer. He had given her something better. He had taught her how to find it herself. Before we reach the ending, leave a meaningful comment and tell us what lesson touched you most. Was it Marcus's decision to use his experience to help a struggling child, Rosalie's courage to keep trying, or Beatrice's realization that love should not be measured by achievement? Your comment could encourage someone who is struggling with failure today. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Because the billionaire had asked one simple question that afternoon: who taught you this formula? She expected an answer about a tutor. Instead, her daughter pointed toward a man pushing a janitor's cart. And behind that ordinary uniform was a father, a veteran, a former Navy SEAL, and a man who understood something that wealth had never taught Beatrice. The greatest teachers do not always stand in classrooms. Sometimes they stand quietly in hallways. Sometimes they work jobs nobody notices. Sometimes they carry memories they never discuss. And sometimes they change a person's entire future simply by refusing to let that person believe they are incapable. Marcus had not taught Rosalie how to solve one formula. He had taught her how to face every difficult problem that would come after it. And that lesson was worth far more than billions.